Imagine a forest so dense that the sunlight barely touches the ground, a treacherous swamp where every step can be the last. In the middle of this green labyrinth, a column of Roman soldiers, proud, disciplined, invincible, advances confidently. They don't know that every broken branch, every shadow that moves, is part of a meticulously woven trap. And the worst, the mastermind behind it is not just any barbarian, but a man trained by the empire itself that now wants to destroy it. After winning the civil war and consolidating his power, Emperor Augustus dreamed of taking Rome beyond the Rhine, conquering the wild lands of Germania. It was not just a military campaign, but a colonization project. New provinces, tax systems, alliances, and the Romanization of tribal leaders. Among these allies was Arminius, a young Germanic chieftain, a Roman citizen, and a former army officer who knew every weakness of the one who was once his master. And if you want to continue traveling through true stories as intense as this one, where every detail reveals the cunning and courage that shaped the fate of empires, then don't wait for the next attack to act. Click now on like to show that you value this type of content, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any battles, intrigues, or mysteries that the story still holds. Every like and every substitution is like reinforcement that keeps alive this mission to bring you epic narratives, surprising revelations, and analysis that you can't find anywhere else. His support is the shield that protects us and the sword that takes us even further. From 4 to 6 AD, the Roman legions under the command of Tiberius won important victories, forcing several Germanic tribes to swear allegiance to Rome. It seemed that Germania Magna was finally within the reach of the empire. To administer the new territory, Augustus appointed Publius Quintilius Varus as governor, a nobleman with great political experience but little military experience. Its mission was to enforce the Roman legal system, stabilize the administration, and maintain order. He blindly trusted the oaths of allegiance of the local chiefs without imagining that this trust would be fatal. Among his closest allies was Arminius, seen as the perfect example of a civilized barbarian. Fluent in Latin, educated in Roman tactics, and respected in the army, he seemed a symbol of the integration Rome desired. But this image was only the surface. Behind his smile and apparent loyalty, Arminius nurtured a plan that would forever change Rome's military history and that would transform a dream of conquest into an irreversible nightmare. The year was 9 AD, and Rome, confident in its supremacy, was marching towards what it believed to be another stage of consolidation of the empire. But in the dense forests of Germania, the reality was different. Arminius, now military leader of the Cherusci, was preparing the coup that would be marked as the Teutoburg disaster. 3 elite legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, were driven into treacherous terrain, where rain, mud, and dense trees made it impossible to maintain military formations. The attack was brutal and unexpected. No reliable survivors have returned to tell the full story. The psychological impact was devastating. The names of the defeated legions were erased forever from the Roman army. In Rome, the Senate and Augustus debated between revenge or prudence. Meanwhile, Arminius used his victory to unite rival tribes under a single cause, to resist Rome at any cost. With no written laws, no senate, but with a deep hatred and Roman military knowledge, he turned the jungle into his stronghold. After the Teutoburg disaster, Augustus, shaken, ordered the withdrawal of troops from the deeper areas beyond the Rhine and concentrated efforts on fortification of the frontier. Forts, palisades, and strategic points were erected to counter German incursions and maintain a stable presence in hostile territory. At the same time, Rome strengthened alliances with pro-Roman tribes, creating a buffer zone against sworn enemies. By 14 AD, on the death of Augustus, his successor Tiberius knew that to forget the defeat would be to allow Arminius to erect a monument to his victory in the heart of Rome. He then entrusted the task of revenge to his nephew and adopted son, Germanicus Julius Caesar. The goal was clear: to restore honor, punish the rebels, and, if possible, bring Arminius's head to Rome. Germanicus wasted no time and began a series of campaigns from 14 to 16 AD, again bringing the sound of trumpets and the brilliance of Roman armor into the Germanic forests. But the Germania that Germanicus found was not the same as before. Arminius was no longer just an opportunistic ambush. He had become a symbol of resistance and a master of asymmetrical warfare. He knew every swamp, every canyon, every spot where the forest could turn into a death trap. In 15 AD, modern archaeologists believe that one of the most intense clashes of this phase occurred near an ancient wooden path known as the Longi Bridges. The Long Bridges. This narrow corridor traversed swampy and unstable terrain, and its control was vital for moving troops and supplies. The Roman commander Caecina, a veteran of hard campaigns, was tasked with advancing through the territory of the landmarks and Brutus, plundering and destabilizing Arminius's allies. His plan was to coordinate with Germanicus a pincer offensive, attacking from the south while the main forces came from the north, but Arminius's treacherous terrain and cunning would soon turn this mission into a 3-day nightmare. Arminius did not wait for Caecina to disperse to attack. From the beginning, he infiltrated, men to observe the Roman column's every move, its supply trains, engineers, pack animals, and the route itself. When he realized that Caecina would return by the way of the Long Bridges, he saw the perfect opportunity. The wooden road, built years earlier, was deteriorated, slippery, and partially destroyed. Constant rains turned the surrounding soil into deep mud, making it impossible to travel quickly. The weight of wagons, catapults, and provisions sank the advance at an agonizing pace. For Arminius, the land would be his greatest ally. Instead of a quick ambush, as in Teutoburg, he adopted intermittent attacks, small charges of archers and horsemen that emerged from the trees, attacked, and disappeared. The goal was not to destroy at once, but to undermine morale, wear down forces, and force the Romans to fight the enemy and nature itself at the same time. Caecina, experienced, realized the danger. He set up a makeshift camp on a rare dry stretch, surrounding it with palisades to protect the troops, while engineers worked late into the night repairing the road. But Arminius didn't just attack with spears and arrows, he used fear as a weapon. Throughout the night, the Romans heard screams, drums, and ghostly sounds echoing in the woods, adding to the tension and exhaustion. At dawn, the main blow came. Simultaneous attacks against the camp and against the points on the road where the works were slowest. The Germans targeted the wagons and the engineers, vulnerable and vital targets. The narrow terrain precluded traditional combat formation, forcing the Romans to fight in small groups, mired in mud where every fall could be fatal. Still, Caecina maintained discipline, reorganizing his forces in defensive formation to hold off the attacks and try to keep the retreat in check. The battle dragged on, and every hour drained the Roman forces. Arminius did not seek a quick victory, but rather to turn the retreat into a slow martyrdom. Late in the afternoon, he launched a fierce attack against the right flank, nearly breaking through the defensive line. Only the decisive action of the Batavian and Galatian cavalry succeeded in holding off the enemy advance. Aware that staying there meant certain destruction, Caecina ordered drastic measures. He burned heavy wagons, freed prisoners, and abandoned non-essential equipment to speed up the escape. That night, in the rain and cold, the march resumed. After 3 days of fighting and exhaustion, the Romans emerged from the long bridges, disfigured by mud, carrying wounded and dead, but still in formation. Although they escaped, the losses were enormous, and the morale of the troops was deeply shaken. Germany had shown once again that it would not easily bend to the power of Rome. The exact losses at the Battle of the Long Bridges have never been accurately recorded, but sources indicate that a significant portion of the Rapax legion was decimated, as well as essential engineers and support staff. The destruction of these units seriously hampered Rome's ability to build and repair strategic routes, delaying future campaigns. More serious than the casualties was the psychological impact. Veteran soldiers, previously confident, returned disenchanted and suspicious. For Germanicus, the result was a severe blow. Arminius had proven that he could confront Rome not only with courage, but with strategic intelligence, exploiting terrain and logistics as weapons. From then on, the Roman command realized that brute force was not enough. It would be necessary to rethink the whole approach in Germania, from the routes of march to cooperation with allied tribes, if they were to avoid new pitfalls like that. The echo of the defeat on the Long Bridges extended far beyond Germanicus's campaign. In Rome, Tiberius adopted a more cautious stance, prioritizing the defense of the frontiers rather than further incursions deep into Germania. This mentality, reinforced by the trauma of Teutoburg and the difficulties in confronting Arminius, shaped military policy for decades. Later, under Domitian, the strategy of advance was definitively replaced by the construction of the line system, fortified lines that marked the boundaries of the empire from the Rhine to the Danube. Germania was no longer seen as a land to be conquered and began to be treated as a barrier to be contained. Thus, the Battle of the Long Bridges, although less famous than Teutoburg, was consolidated as a watershed. It revealed the Roman vulnerability in the face of an enemy adapted to the terrain, and silently destroyed the dream of Roman expansion to the north. If this dive into history made you feel like you've learned something new, traveled back in time and seen ancient Rome in a different way, then repay that moment now. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel. That's how you help me continue to bring narratives as rich and transformative as this one. His every gesture is like a vote for these stories, which have shaped the world to continue to be told with detail and emotion. The knowledge you receive today can transform the way you see the past, and, who knows, even the present.